Hello YouTube! Today we have a very special episode of The Naughty Librarian because we're getting back into drunk classics, and today I read The Tempest by William Shakespeare. So you might be wondering, hey Amanda, aren't you supposed to do Hi Shakespeare? That's what the series is called, and you would be correct. However, I'll be honest with you guys, this is not the first video I have filmed today. And I made the mistake of drinking during the first video. So we're just gonna continue this so I don't get completely messed up, but like, just know we're starting off a little loosey-goosey, everybody. So anyways, let's get into what happened during the Tempest. Let's go. Curtains rise, the play has begun. So they're on a boat that's in a storm, and the crew is trying really hard to have the boat not sink. Like, they're trying the hardest, and they're mainly trying so hard, not only, because they don't want the boat to sink with them all on it. They also have the Alonso, who's like the king of Naples, and his like entourage on board. So they got important people. If they kill the king, they're gonna be in a lot of trouble. Alonso, king of Naples, and then you have his brother Sebastian, and then you have his son Ferdinand, and then you have the Duke of Milan, Antonio, and then you have this like counselor guy who's this kind of he's grumpy sometimes, but he's like nice. That's the best way to describe him. His name's Gonzalo. So it's like king plus entourage on a boat, and they are just kind of like a bunch of rich a-holes because they won't listen to the boat like manager. They keep calling him a boatswain, but like it has no spelling that makes any sense to me, so I just started calling him the boat manager. So like the boat manager, he's like, hey, go inside of the boat. You guys are standing on the deck of a boat in a storm. We're trying to like not have it sink and you're in the way. And they're like, why, I never. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna ask to speak to your manager. Like, they're full on being Karens about it. It's not cool. However, it doesn't really matter because now is the time where the boat decides, uh-oh, it's time to break in half. So the boat, it's sinking. All the people get thrown in the ocean. They're getting washed to different directions. So we're going to move the story back to the island for a second. So we get introduced to this guy named Prospero and his daughter Miranda. Miranda was watching the storm and she saw the boat sink, and she's like distraught about it because like all these people died. And so she asks her dad, she's like, Dad, did you make this storm? Because by the way, Prospero, he's a friggin' wizard, okay? So he can make storms. And Prospero, he's like, yeah, I made a storm and I sank a ship. Like, he's not really trying to deny this at all. And he's just like, oh, stop making a big deal out of it, Miranda. Like, I made sure everyone survived, okay? Because I'm a good father. And like, you don't even know the half of it, okay? Like, he's very like defensive about this. And since Miranda doesn't know the half of it, Prospero decides now is a good time to start revealing the half of it to her. And just be aware, Prospero is one of those guys who tells very long stories. I mean, it's like a running joke in the play. Like, they're so long. He sits Miranda down and he starts telling her the story that starts 12 years ago. And he's like, Miranda, your father was the Duke of Milan. So she's like, what? Then who the hell are you? Who the hell's my dad? What's going on here? And Prospero's like, Miranda, I'd like to think I was the only person fucking your mom back then. So yeah, I'm your dad. I just also was the Duke of Milan. I didn't know this was difficult to understand. Like, he's getting a little upset with her because that was pretty dumb. However, considering her dad is like the rightful Duke of Milan, that makes Miranda a princess. And he's like, guess what, you're a secret princess. So we're getting like full-on Princess Diaries right now, and I'm like living for it. Prospero tells his long winding story that basically describes how they got to this island. So basically what had happened was Prospero's brother Antonio the current Duke of Milan, stole the dukedom from him. But here's the thing, like Prospero, he was always off like doing wizard stuff and like looking up magic books and doing all of the wizardy things, and he just left Antonio to like, you know, run the fucking city. So when Prospero, you know, wasn't paying attention to the city, Antonio, he started like sucking up to all the right people and like the king, and the king was like, you know what, Antonio, I like you. You should be part of my entourage. Guess what? You should also be the Duke of Milan. Like, you should do that. So the king takes the dukedom from Prospero. He gives it to Antonio instead. Was he wrong? Kinda no, because like Prospero didn't do jack shit to run Milan, and it was Antonio the whole time. But they're making Antonio into the villain of this situation, and he is a villain, but like not for this. Like, he stole the dukedom. Bitch, you weren't doing nothing for the dukedom. You were busy being a wizard. But the kicker here is that Antonio wasn't like settled just being the Duke of Milan. He had to get rid of Prospero because people like Prospero for some reason. So he got like this whole mob together, right? And they run Prospero and Miranda out of town in the middle of the night. And Miranda's like a little toddler, like she's a little baby. And so Antonio and his like mob, they like threw Prospero and Miranda on this shitty boat, like the world's shittiest boat. Like they were full on expecting this thing to sink. They like, whatever, we didn't technically kill you because the ocean did, but like we're betting on it killing you. And so Prospero and Miranda get pushed out to sea, and they end up in a storm, and they get all blown around, and then they end up like crashing on the island, and that's where they are now. And like one of the main reasons why they were able to survive like being stranded on this island in the first place is because that guy Gonzalo, he actually like snuck a bunch of like supplies, like food and water and clothes and stuff on the boat, so like they're not gonna like starve to death. They have stuff they can like build shelter with, so he like gave them a bunch of supplies. So like Gonzalo, okay dude in the end. So Prospero finally gets to the point of his whole long story here, where it's that, hey, Miranda, I sunk the boat today because it was full of all of my enemies, and it's now the perfect time to put my revenge plan into action. Like, today's the day. So now that like Prospero has told this very long story to Miranda, where she's obviously going to have some questions that he doesn't feel like answering, he just like magics her asleep. He's like, sleep! And she's like, so it's like, Prospero. He's kind of the worst. So Miranda's unconscious, and Prospero, he's like, all right, it's revenge plans time. So Prospero, he calls his servant Ariel, and Ariel's like this elemental spirit. So, you know, they can go get to work. Basically, Prospero needs Ariel to do a bunch of stuff. All of the boat crash was like Ariel's doing. Made sure that all of like the king's entourage from the boat made it safely to shore, but separated them into like a bunch of different little groups. And in particular, Prospero wanted Ferdinand, who's the king's son, the prince. He wanted him all alone for his plan to work. So after like all of the bad guys are on the island, Ariel, guess what, everybody? He like put the boat back together magically. He's like duct tape, I guess. He just stuck it all back together. He put all of the crew back on the boat, even though they're napping. They're all having a boat nap. So they're just all there. And Ariel's been working really hard today. You know, they're expecting some recognition, or at least a thank you from Prospero. But Prospero can't be bothered. He's like, okay, great, good. You can go off and do all this other stuff now because you already accomplished all of part one. Good for you. And Ariel's just like, hey, listen, bro, like I did a lot already today, and like you told me you would set me free when I was done with my work, and my work is done. The relationship is full on like Aladdin and the genie, and like I was like living for it. Prospero doesn't like being talked back to, especially by someone he considers a servant, so he goes on his full on don't you know who I am rage, because he thinks that Ariel should just automatically like serve him forever because like what he's done for Ariel. Again, what had happened was Ariel was banished to the island like a long time ago, as a servant to this evil witch that they were going to execute, but they couldn't because she was pregnant, so they just like banished her instead. Ariel was too nice, and they didn't want to do all the evil stuff the witch wanted them to do, so the witch got tired of it, and so she just imprisoned Ariel in a tree, and they were there for years before Prospero showed up on the island and like freed Ariel with his magic. But like Prospero's not a complete dick, because like he does still promise Ariel. He's like, listen, Ariel, I still pinky promise you I'm gonna give you your freedom, but I need you to do a few more things. Like, just do them, just do the stuff, and I'll give you your freedom, pinky promise. So Ariel's like, ugh, fine. So Ariel goes off as like this elemental water nymph thing, and like to go set Revenge Plan Part 2 into motion. So now that that's settled, it's time to wake Miranda back up, and he's like, all right, hey Miranda, hey sleepyhead, don't worry about why you were asleep. Let's go talk to Caliban. I need him to do stuff. And Miranda does not want to go talk to Caliban. Miranda despises Caliban for very good reasons. So backstory on Caliban, right? So when Prospero got to the island, like Caliban was already there, and he was this kind of like a feral young man. Essentially, he's the witch's kid, and he like took him in. He like took care of him and like taught him how to speak and stuff, and like, you know, helped him. And how does Caliban repay this kindness? Oh, by trying to rape Miranda. Like, that's how. And it's very clear in the book that this dude is super rapey. Like, it's alarming. Like, oh my god. So like Caliban and Prospero have this very like contentious relationship, and they just insult each other all the time. But like Prospero, he's still like the wizard in charge. So he's like, Caliban, shut your trap, go get like firewood and stuff. I need you to go get shit from around the island for stuff, for reasons. Now enough time has passed apparently for Ariel to be back. And Ariel shows up like and they're invisible and like singing the siren-y song, and it's compelling Ferdinand to follow this song. So Ferdinand gets there, and Prospero's like, hey Miranda, what do you think about this guy? Miranda's like, damn son, that ass though. I mean, it's not like she's seen a lot of dudes or had very many options in men for comparison purposes, but like, she likes what she sees in this one. And then like Ferdinand kind of like snaps out of his trance, and he's like, damn girl, that ass though. Like, you single? Because guess what? Like, my dad was the king of Naples. He probably died, so I'm about to be king of Naples, and I'm gonna need a queen. Like, let's do this, right? Like, he's just full on hitting on her. Like, he just got there. But Prospero, happy as a clam about this, because this is what he wanted to happen. He wants these two to fall in love with each other. But, you know, Prospero wants to play hard to get still. And he's like, hey, I don't know you, sir. What are you here hitting on my daughter? Like, I'm not having this. I'm locking you in my island jail. And like Miranda's like, no, I love him. And Prospero's like, ugh, fine. If he just like goes quietly, like I won't torture him. And you know, Ferdinand's like, okay, fine. Because I love Miranda. Like, if I had to lose everything in my life, but I still had the option of just seeing Miranda once a day, like my life would be fine. It's like so fucking dramatic. They've known each other for like 7 minutes. They just met. So Ferdinand is making the best of this whole prisoner of love deal that he's in, and he's like doing random manual labor tasks around like their like island house, and he's like, oh, but I'm so happy because I at least have Miranda to think about while I do chores. And it's like, yeah, people do chores all the time, bro. Like, it's not that hard. I get it, you're a prince and you've never done chores, but like, you're just collecting sticks. Like, you're not really doing anything. So Miranda shows up and she's like, oh, hey, Ferdinand, you've been doing so many chores. Like, you could just rest for a second. And Ferdinand's like, no, I don't want to rest for a second. I'm in love. And so they start like, you know, actually having a conversation with each other because they haven't had one yet. So Ferdinand finally asks like the $1 million question here. He's like, hey, by the way, what's your name? Like, he hadn't even asked Miranda's name yet. This woman that he's desperately in love with, for real. Homeboy doesn't even know her name and he's ready to make her queen. It's like, what? What is happening? So, you know, Miranda, she introduces herself. She's like, oh, I am Miranda. And then like, you know, they get to know each other a little bit more, and they talk about how like in love they are with each other, and it's only about an hour since they met. Like, this is the first conversation they've had. It's very strange. But this whole conversation just makes them more in love with each other. And like Miranda like tells Ferdinand that she does want to marry him, and Ferdinand's like, yeah, I totally want to marry you too. Let's go get married. Like, let's do this. Like, they're full on, let's go get married to a stranger vibes. And Prospero, so psyched that this little meet cute went so well, because this is exactly what he needed to happen so he can move on to the next part of his revenge plan. I guess his revenge plan part 4 question mark, some part of the plan. He's moving on to it. We're gonna put a pin in that for a hot second. Okay, so we go back to the king's entourage because they've all washed up on the island too, and you know, they're all trying to figure out what's going on. They're all looking around the island, and they all see like really different things. Like Gonzalo sees it as like paradisey. It's like nice. It's just like cool breezes and grassy, and he's like, oh, this place is nice. And Antonio and Sebastian just see like a smelly ass wasteland. They're like, this place is gross. Alonso is kind of like the baby bear of the situation, because he's like, it's a bit of both. It's like that middle ground. It's like, it's kind of barren, but it's not smelly. So he's like the middle ground here. And they're all bickering and just being, you know, rich a-holes basically. And like Alonso's sad because his son is probably dead and stuff. So, you know, they're mourning. But regardless of all that, Ariel shows up, and they start like playing like sleepy time music, and Gonzalo and Alonso, they fall asleep. I don't know what it is with Shakespeare and surprise naps. Like, all of his plays, people just nap wherever they are. It's like a thing, and it's in all of the plays, just naps everywhere. However, as soon as everybody's asleep, like Antonio starts plotting murder with Sebastian. He's like, hey Sebastian, you want to be king, right? Why don't we just kill these two? Now that they're asleep, it'll be real easy. And then when we get back to Italy, you can take the throne, because like the prince is probably dead too. Like, and you're the king's brother. Just saying, this would be easy. And Sebastian goes along with it. He's like, this is a great idea. So they start like drawing their swords. They're getting ready to get stabby. But this is not part of the revenge plan. So like Ariel like whispers in like Gonzalo's ear real fast and like wakes him up. He's like, hey, guess what? These guys are getting real murdery. You need to like wake up. So Gonzalo, he wakes up. He goes, wakes up the king. And then they're both awake, and they like look up, and there's Antonio and Sebastian there with their swords out. And it's like, oh, well, this is awkward. What are you doing there with swords out? So like Sebastian and Antonio are like, we heard lions. There's lions on this island. We heard them. So we were like gonna protect you from lions. That's why our swords are out. And, you know, Alonso, he didn't get the murder warning from Ariel. So he's like, oh, okay, good thinking, you two. You should keep your swords out, you know? Like, let's go look for my son. Like, he's just, like, jolly and trusting and easy to trick. So they all go off looking for Ferdinand, and, like, Ariel's kind of, like, slowly guiding him in the right direction. We're gonna switch back over to rapey old Caliban. We're gonna check in on him for a second. He's walking around doing his chores, and he's like talking shit about Prospero, like, you goddamn bitch. Like, he's just really angry at Prospero and just talking shit. And then he hears someone coming, and he's like, oh no, Prospero sent like evil spirits to bother me. This is gonna suck. I'm just gonna play dead. So he just like plays dead. But it wasn't an evil spirit that showed up. It was the court jester, and his name is Trinculo. So he shows up, and he's just looking for some shelter because he's worried, like, if another storm comes, what's gonna happen? So he's just looking for shelter. And then he sees Caliban, and he's like, ew, fishman, weird. Like, he's not into this at all. And Trinculo all of a sudden starts hearing like thunder, and he's like, oh, no. One storm is enough for today. And he gets scared. And so he just kind of like ducks down under Caliban's like cloak. So like, he just saw like a fishman and jumped under his skirts, essentially. It's like, sir, buy someone a drink first. So now they have another visitor. It's this guy named Stefano. He's like the cook, and he's super drunk. Like, he's just drunk all the time. And he's walking along, and he sees Caliban. He's like, ew, weird fishman. And he's like, oh no, you've got 4 legs. What the hell are you? Because, you know, Trinculo's under the cape and so he thinks he has all these extra limbs. It's real stupid for like a hot minute in this play. But so Caliban stops this and he's like, what the fuck? And Stefano's like, me, what the fuck? No, you, what the fuck? Like, you are a monster who speaks Italian? Like, what is going on here? But then Stefano, in his drunk little mind, he starts thinking, he's like, hey, this is a monster who knows Italian. This is an opportunity. Okay, I've got it. I'm gonna get the fish man really drunk so I can lure him back to Italy with me and I can like sell him to someone. So this is Stefano's big plan. So he's like, hey fish man, you want some wine? Like, you should have wine. And he just starts like convincing Caliban to start drinking the wine. And so he does, and Caliban's like, wow, wine is great. Like, why haven't I been drinking this since forever? This is incredible. I'm drinking all of your wine. But finally, Trinculo is like wondering what's going on above the cape. Mind you, it's a cape. It's not soundproof. So he could have heard all of this. And so he's like, hello? And then like Stefano's like, bruh, where's your other mouth? Like, where's this hello coming from? It's all very slapstick that I'm sure would have killed in the 1500s. Eventually they all figure this shit out, okay? So Stefano, Trinculo, they're happy. They're like, oh yay, we found each other, happiness. And Caliban's just chugging the wine. Like, he has a new favorite thing and it's wine, and he's just like drinking all of it. And he's like, Stefano, you're great. I will be your servant so long as you give me more wine. And Stefano's like, that's a great idea. Let's all get drunk. Why not? So that's what they do. They just are like 3 idiots who get drunk on an island for the rest of the play. So those 3 idiots just get hoisted and they're all getting rowdy with each other, and Caliban's telling them about like Prospero and how he's a tyrant and like he stole the island from him, all this stuff. You know, things get really bold and big when you're drunk. But what the 3 drunkards don't know was that Ariel was there, invisible and like spying on them, and he keeps calling out like Caliban's bullshit. And there's like more slapstick here with like people thinking each one is talking but they're not talking. It's Ariel, so like they get in fights with each other, and it's all just silly comic relief moments here. So Caliban like calms down all the slapstick for a second. He's like, hey you guys, I've got an idea. Let's go kill Prospero. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna sneak up on him while he's napping, okay? And then you two, you're gonna go steal his wizard books so he's like not good at magic and he's powerless for right now. And then like, I don't know, they can like hit him in the head with something. Like, it's not a very elaborate plan. And then after Prospero's like dead and out of the way, guess what they can do, everybody? They can take Miranda and make all these babies with her. Like, that is Caliban's big plan. Damn, Caliban, you were a rapey son of a bitch. No, son of a witch. Still rapey though. So Ariel hears this big plan to kill Prospero, but I guess it's like part of the revenge plan, I guess. So Ariel's like, all right, like, let's start leading these guys back to Prospero. So the 3 drunk idiots start following like disembodied singing in the forest. Like, that's what people do in this play. So they wander on off. Meanwhile, way back on the other side of the island here, the entourage, they've just been like aimlessly looking around for Ferdinand, and they like can't find him. So they're like, okay, we're pretty sure this guy is dead at this point. Antonio sees Alonso in distress and sad that his son is probably dead. And he's like, I'm gonna capitalize on this because like I'm still pro kill Alonso. Like, let's kill these guys tonight. Like, he's still on his murder kick. So they're just wandering around the forest, and then like more disembodied music starts playing. They start hearing this song and they're like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, this magical buffet is laid out for the entourage, and they get invited to eat by like nymphs and stuff. And they're like, what the fuck is this? Like, are these danger peas? Should we be eating this? Like, what's going on here? But like in the end, they're all pretty hungry because they've been wandering around an island for a while. So they're like, well, fuck it, let's just eat the food. But like, honestly, things get real weird for a minute here. Like, it's already been weird, but it's about to get weirder. before they can eat anything at the buffet, Ariel, they turn into like this actual harpy and like crashes dinner. And they're like, hey, listen up, fuckwads. 3 out of 4 of you guys suck. You're real a-holes. Not into you. Like, remember what y'all did to Prospero? Like, you threw him in the ocean with a literal baby. Dick move, bros. Like, you deserved to have your ship crash for just being D-bags. You suck. Like, he's just like going on this tirade with them. And he's like, and you know what else? You better start apologizing right here and now, or things are never gonna get any better for you. Harpy out. Like, just flies away. And then everything just kind of goes back to normal again. Like, the little like spirits are playing music and stuff, and like they end up taking away the buffet because, like, let's be real, it's probably ruined now. But like Gonzalo breaks the awkward harpy silence by like going, hey, what's up with you guys? Like, what's going on? Because apparently Gonzalo didn't see the harpy. And it's probably the same reason Gonzalo sees the island as like this paradise, you know, pure of heart. Like, he sees the world as a magical place because he's a good person. But Alonso did listen to what the harpy had to say, and he's like, you know what? I should probably apologize for what I did to Prospero. It's kind of shitty. Like, karma obviously came back and kicked me in the ass because now my son is dead and I'm stranded on an island. You know, kind of learned his lesson here. But Sebastian and Antonio, they're like, nah, we're doubling down on being a-holes. So they draw their swords again. They're like, we're gonna go look for trouble. That's what we do. And they're just going off. And like Gonzalo's like, oh my God, what are these idiots gonna do next? So they just follow after, you know, Antonio and Sebastian, who are off being hot-headed a-holes. But speaking of Prospero, let's go back to Prospero for a hot second, because he finally comes clean to Ferdinand about like making him do all the hard labor because like he wanted to test his love for Miranda. And like, mind you, it's only been like a couple hours of labor. Like, he didn't really like put this guy through the ringer here. But anyway, Ferdinand passed his test of loving Miranda. And then it gets weird again because like Ferdinand starts going on and on about how special he wants the wedding night to be, and it's all he can think about, and like it's taking everything in his power not to just start fucking her right now. Like, that's basically the gist of what he's saying. And like, listen, I don't care how bad you want to rail your fiance, you don't go tell her dad about it. However, Prospero, I think he's just giving the kid a pass. He's like, all right, you know what? Fine, whatever. Just keep it in your pants until you're married. Fine, rail her all you like. So Prospero, he's like, hey, I'm happy you two are in love. Like, this is cute. I'm gonna give you guys an engagement present. So his like engagement present is basically just like a big magic show. like he's really trying hard to make being a magician cool at this point. But okay, everyone just shut up, it's time for a magic show, right? So Prospero, he like conjures up like a bunch of Roman goddesses who like bicker with each other, but then like ultimately like bestow blessings for the wedding upon like the cute couple. And then there's this big dance number with some like nymphs to close out the show. It's really elaborate for a magic show. But the show ends up getting cut short because all of a sudden Prospero remembers that Ariel told him that Caliban was coming to kill him and that he should probably take care of that. Like now you remember? Like mid-magic show you remember that someone was trying to kill you? How did you forget? But anyway, it ends up leading to like this big sentimental speech because like Prospero really likes to hear himself talk. It's about, you know, how magic is temporary, and there's like a lot more metaphors in here about like life and stuff. But like, honestly, I'm not of a mind to go over them at the moment, but like they're there. But we do get like that one famous quote, like, we are such stuff as dreams are made of. That's from the Tempest, and it's from right there. So la la la, we get a fun line that quoted a lot from Shakespeare this play. So now it's like revenge plan, side quest, go time. And so Ariel, he leads the drunk idiots back to Prospero. But first, you know, just to like kind of rub it in that they don't like them, like he makes him walk through like stank water first, just for laughs. He's like, I'm gonna stick it to these dummies. So while the dummies are in the stank water, Prospero and Ariel, they set out a bunch of like fancy stuff around like the house. So like they're baiting the trap. So Caliban, Trinculo, Stefano, they finally roll up to the house. And, you know, to top everything off, the worst thing that happened to these three dummies today is that they lost their wine in the stank water. Like, they are very grumpy. They are ready for some murder time. However, you know, they're also idiots. So they go get distracted by all the fancy stuff that, like, Prospero put out. It's working perfectly, his plan. Prospero, he springs his trap and he conjures up like these hellhounds to like chase after the dudes, and he scares the living shit out of them. They're just like, oh my gosh, dogs! And they're like, they're running away, and like for good measure on top, just to like stick it to them, Prospero's like, oh yeah, and I hope you get cramps. Like he's a full force wizard, and he conjured up hellhounds, but the most he can do to these guys is give them cramps. But whatever, you know, Prospero, he's happy with the outcome here, and he's happy with Ariel's work, and he's like, Ariel, I know you've been working hard. I'm still promising to free you. Like, I pinky promised, chill. So here we go. We're kind of coming into the home stretch here. This is kind of towards the end of the show. So now it's time to get back on revenge plan part, whatever, like the last part. That's the part of the revenge plan we're on. So Ariel, he fills in Prospero about, you know, how pathetic the king's entourage is. And like, he's like, honestly, like, I feel a little bad for them if like I were capable of crying, because like I'm an elemental spirit and I don't cry. But like, you know what, Prospero, he kind of takes Ariel's like emotions into heart, and he's like, maybe I should be merciful. And like, TBH, the whole revenge plan he has been pretty freaking merciful this whole time. Like, no one got hurt. The worst injury was like the stank water. So yeah, it's not a very bloody revenge plan, and we all know Shakespeare is capable of very bloody plays. This one is just like mischief at best. So Ariel goes to get the entourage, and Prospero, he casts this big magical spell with his staff. You know, wizard shit for the win here. He's doing some cool wizard stuff. And then he delivers like the longest monologue. Like, Prospero just loves hearing himself talk. Like, so long-winded, the whole play. So, you know what? TLDR, he's gonna give up magic after this because he feels like he's accomplished everything he needs to. There, I summed it up in 2 sentences. He like talked forever. Like, it's the longest monologue. But like, he was talking for so long, it gave Ariel enough time to bring the entourage over to Prospero. And first up, Prospero, he's like, hey, Gonzalo, you're cool. You're a good guy. You're loyal. Then he moves on to Alonso and Sebastian. He's like, hey, both of you are dicks for treating, you know, Prospero and Miranda so shitty. And then he moves on to, you know, his brother Antonio. And he's like, hey, guess what, everybody? Did y'all know Antonio was full on planning to murder you guys? And like was roping Sebastian into it. Do you all know the murder plan? Because like there was one. But like the whole like speech he's giving all these guys right now isn't really hitting home as hard as it could, because like none of the entourage know they're talking to Prospero. Like, it's been 12 years. He looks different. They're like, who is this like strange grizzly island man talking to us? Like, what is happening? They don't know who this is. So Prospero, he has Ariel like help him get into his old like Duke clothes so he can have like the big reveal that he is Prospero. Drama! So while Prospero's dealing with the entourage, he's like, Ariel, one last thing. You gotta go over to the ship and wake up the crew. Nap time's over. Wake them up. Have them sail around here to where we are. That's your job. Go do it. So Ariel's like, okay, fine. And so Ariel leaves. And Alonso, he just realizes this is Prospero, and he's like, oh shit, Prospero, I'm sorry for being a dick all those years ago. Like, here, you can have your dukedom back. Like, my bad. He's the king. I guess he can just hand out dukedoms when he wants. So Prospero's like, hey, Alonso, cool, thanks, I like that. So Prospero, he addresses Antonio and Sebastian, you know, the dick bags of this group, and he's like, hey, you guys are like the scummiest scumbags who ever scumbagged. Like, I could go into graphic detail about all the shit you guys have done, but like, frankly, I don't got all day, so I'm just gonna like keep it to myself. Like, since when has like Prospero not wanting to go in a long, like, winding speech? But whatever. He's saving us the trouble for now. Prospero is just like, whatever, I forgive you, okay? I forgive you both for being bad guys, even though like neither Antonio or Sebastian has apologized in the least. They have not apologized, he just decides to forgive them. So things are wrapping up, and Alonso, he's like, oh, well, will you tell us the whole story? What happened to you? Like, what happened to you and Miranda when you got on the boat? Like, is she alive? Like, what's going on? And Prospero's like, oh, like, I'll tell you, don't worry. I love to tell a good long story. It's gonna happen, but like, in the meantime, hey, guess what? I like got a surprise in my house for you. Like, you should see. So Prospero, because he loves a good dramatic moment, he goes to like the front, like, I don't know, he has like a curtain, and he's like, whoosh, he like draws it back real quick. And there's Miranda and Ferdinand, and they're playing chess. For real, like, I'm not making up like a euphemism for them having sex. They were literally playing chess. Good for them. I guess like the uncontrollable boners have died down. Alonso and Ferdinand are so happy to see each other again. You know, as father and son, they both thought each other were dead. Neither of them are dead. They're very happy. And Ferdinand's like, guess what, Dad? I'm engaged to Miranda. I've known her for 3 hours. Don't worry about it, you know? To quote Rihanna, we found love in a hopeless place, okay? Like, that's their whole vibe. And Ariel shows back up, and he brought like the boat manager with him, and he's like, hey guys, guess what? It's me. I'm the boat manager, and guess what? Everybody's alive, and like the boat is all in one piece again. You know, like magic, like the boat's better. So let's keep wrapping up some more loose ends here. Prospero, he tells Ariel that, you know, we can go ahead and call off the hellhounds from chasing, you know, Caliban and the other two idiots. We don't need to chase them anymore. Like, I feel like we've gotten it out of our system. So the three dummies come back to Prospero's house, because like, where else are they gonna go? And like, Alonso and Prospero just start making fun of them for being drunken idiots. So like, you know what? Maybe they're making a friendship. They're bonding. So Prospero just has the three of them start doing a bunch of chores around the house if they want to be forgiven for being a bunch of dumbasses, and, you know, also trying to murder him. Go do chores. Like, that's his big punishment. So everyone, they just kind of settle in for the night at Prospero's place so they can all catch up, and Prospero can give his whole life story and whatnot. And then tomorrow morning, you know, after they've rested, they'll get on the boat and they'll sail back to Naples, and like the kids can go get married, and like Prospero will go back to Milan and be the Duke again. Now, one last little piece of this revenge story turned redemption story, because Prospero, he gives Ariel one last task before freedom. This is it. This is the very final one. All, you know, Ariel has to do is just make sure the weather stays nice for them to sail back to Naples the next morning, and then they're officially free. You know, like Aladdin, and I'm into it. And then there's like this like epilogue where like, I don't know, like Prospero, he just breaks the fourth wall and he starts talking directly to the audience. He's like, well, okay, folks, I guess it's up to all of you to get us back to Naples, and the only way you can do it is through applause. You know, just begging for applause. So I guess basically, you know, the whole audience has to like applaud whether or not they like the show, because it's part of the show. You know, smart tricking them. So, and then that's the end of the play. It's just all of a sudden Prospero starts talking to the audience saying clap. The end. So overall, I kind of liked The Tempest. It's fun. I was hoping for more cool wizard shit. Like, for some reason I thought it was gonna be darker than it was. I don't know why. Probably because it's a revenge story with wizards. Like, I thought it was gonna be much darker. This one is very much like slapstick comedy, but it's fun. I mean, with several drinks, a lot of things are fun, so it was a good time. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below, what's a Shakespeare play that surprised you? Like, did you think it was a drama, but it was a comedy, or vice versa? What was that for you? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And if you want cool exclusive content, including early access to videos and a book club, you can consider becoming a channel member or a patron. Links for that are in the description down below. And on that note, I will see you guys soon. And goodbye.